Hello guys, this is Critical Discussions episode 30 and let's just jump right into it. So let's start with few interviews by Kyrylo Budanov, who is Ukrainian's intelligence chief of intelligence, whatever it's called in Ukraine. I mean, it's called GUR in Ukraine. So Russia seeks to freeze war, but it won't happen. He was talking about the fact that, Russia doesn't really have ability to advance on the battlefield, and they're essentially like stalling. Like they did a little bit of advancement, but they really cannot like capture the whole Ukraine, and it's absolutely evident by now. And this particular sort of conversation was before March of 2024, and so it was before Russians' fake elections, and so definitely there was like no mobilization, like no second wave of mobilization in Russia. But it's probably going to happen in the upcoming sort of I don't know, weeks, or probably not weeks, but maybe like months, because Putin absolutely showed that he absolutely disregards everyone in Russia. But what's interesting is like this particular interview, it is in Ukrainian language, but it's like the English translation via like Google is doing really good job actually. And he was describing basically like things that people who've been following this war sort of know, sort of on their own already, like by themselves. They know about this, that the war must end with Ukraine's victory and with Russian not only defeat but the Russian total collapse, because this is exactly sort of like the allowing Russia to exist, right? This is something that will lead to another war, evidently, because obviously, in 2014, not even in 2014, Russia subjugated essentially Chechnya via two wars against that country, against that state. Then obviously Georgian War, 2008, nothing was done to Russia to punish it. Then obviously annexation of Crimea. Well, before that, obviously helping and propping up Belarusian dictator, supporting him in elections 2010 when there were a lot of protests. Then again, annexation of Crimea, supporting once again dictatorship in Belarus in 2020 when there were protests once again. And then now, obviously, full-scale Russian war against Ukraine. And so, Kyrylo Budanov was talking exactly about it. Like, if the world would have sort of punished Russia for annexation of Crimea, there wouldn't be any like Donbass. There wouldn't be any full-scale invasion in 2020. But the world didn't do anything. And what's evident right now is that the world's sort of security system that's supposed to prevent these kind of things, as in like for example like Paris Accords or some kind of, or even like Budapest memorandums, and just in general sort of the role of United Nations and whatnot, as like absolutely ineffective, and enable the countries who participate in the system that's supposed to sort of protect countries and protect world stability and world peace. The countries are not doing anything essentially, and they're not responding properly to the aggressors. This is a really good interview. Once again, it is in Ukrainian, but translation via Google is really good, so I would really recommend you to take a look at this. And what's interesting is that he is really saying that like not only that Ukraine must obviously free their whole of their territory as per borders of 1991 with Crimea, obviously, But yeah, the whole collapse of the country of occupants, that is Russia, of course, is necessary to prevent further escalation, further violence, and further wars, essentially. And it's true. I've talked about it as well. Like, sort of, this is not like some particularly great observation. This is just something that needs to happen. Simple as that. Russia must lose this war. Russia must the nuclear warheads, nuclear arms, weapons. They must be confiscated from Russia, and so Russia must never have nuclear weaponry anymore, and the whole of Russia must collapse. In terms of collapse, yeah, I've repeated it already. I don't know, 20 times probably during my critical discussions episodes. I would want to see Russia collapse at for I don't know, 10, 15 different republics, separate republics, because as of right now, a lot of those republics, they don't have a lot in common, and people have different cultures and whatnot. This kind of a multicultural shit, it's not about Russia. It may exist somewhere in New York, might exist somewhere in London or wherever. Even that is right now being captured by Muslims, very aggressive Muslims, which is not great at all. But in general, this is the multiculturalism is not about Russia whatsoever. Russia just invades and captures territories and then subjugates people and forces them to essentially integrate into Russian Empire, learn Russian languages and whatnot. Which, if under any other circumstances, I would be okay with people learning Russian language, for example, because it's easier to communicate in this large region, sort of in Europe or in the world in general. There is this English language that is dominant as second language and whatnot. And in this particular region, ex-USSR, obviously it was, again, good or bad, but it was useful for all people, for all whatever, it's 100, 250 million, probably around 200 million people. It was useful for all of them to speak one language, or at least know that language, right? You might speak Belarusian, you might speak Ukrainian, you might speak Kazakh language, whatever it might be, right? Tajiks, whatever it might be, right? But it was useful to also speak Russian so you can communicate, because the whole of society is about communication between people. So there was use for that. But the way that Russia has done it, it's not by soft power, not by soft force and whatnot, how Hollywood exports their movies and sort of instill certain values in many people across the world, and there were pretty decent values up until very recently. That's a useful sort of use of your language, so that you are sort of spreading your culture and showing sort of good interest in norms. But Russia in its current form must die. That's simple as that. Okay. Let's just move on from this particular topic. One interesting news was that obviously actually Zaluzhny was fired. Zaluzhny was chief of Ukrainian armed forces. Here, I got there eventually. He was fired. On his place was put Alexander Syrsky, who have been studying in Moscow in Russia, which is, I don't know really, that's particularly great, to be honest, because some people speculate that he probably have some connections still with Russia, and not sort of good kind of connections, but connections that might undermine security of Ukraine. I don't know how much of it might be true, is true, etc. There were also many other people who have been changed, replaced. Some of them, I like that some of them are young people, like, 30, 39, ages 40. Means that they probably don't have sort of connections with Russia, Moscow, whatever. They like solely sort of Ukrainian. They're patriots of their own country, and many of them already sort of grew up seeing, or because it was 10 years already ago, seeing the annexation of Crimea and whatnot, and they probably grew to hate Russians in a very good way that is required right now to absolutely hate the country that invades you. It's not all sort of roses, essentially, right? Because again, there were a lot of speculations about the fact that Zelensky's sort of right hand, essentially, might be compromised. And there were news, in February, and now there were news in March as well, that everyone is getting fired besides that one person. Besides that one person, the right hand of Zelensky, which Yermak, there is, right? Andrei Yermak. I don't know how much of these speculations are true, that he is connected to Russia, to Russian intelligence and whatnot. But even Budanov was saying that Russia knew about our counteroffensive operation sort of way before we started it. And that means that there are spies still right now, Russian spies in Ukrainian government, somewhere at highest levels. Simple as that. And Zaluzhny sometimes was like, he was aware of that, and he sometimes didn't really sort of give certain information to Zelensky, which apparently Zelensky didn't really like, or maybe not so much Zelensky, but maybe the advisors of Zelensky, those who are actual like spies and whatnot. Again, this is speculation right now, right? And this is not even like my speculations. I'm just relaying the things that I've sort of watched or read. And if that's true, if Zelensky is being played by his sort of very sort of close, good acquaintances or something like that, or good friends, that's really sad. If Zelensky sort of is a bit blind to the fact that Russians know a little too much, and Zelensky is probably, there is a possibility that he's doing all the wrong choices by removing the wrong people, instead of removing a couple actual Russian spies, even though they might be sort of close allies to Zelensky, whatever. He's not really thinking, maybe he's not really thinking about the country at all, but sort of puts his own values of people or something like that, sort of beforehand, which is, again, like, maybe he's not like malicious or anything like that. Maybe he just doesn't understand that, because obviously, like, what kind of experience does he have doing with all of this fucking intelligence shit and running the country and then, doing all this presidential fucking crap, you know what I mean? Obviously, it's like no easy task, and especially like if you're talking about all this like spy games and whatnot, right? This is ruthless kind of a shit. And so if he's not prepared to that, like, for that, it's not great. I don't know. I obviously, this is not right now the biggest problem. The biggest problem is United States bought by Kremlin Congress, fucking Speaker Johnson, who is a piece of garbage, and who's delaying for 6 months already aid to Ukraine. And in fact, the last approved aid to Ukraine by United States was in 2022. At the end of the year. So the whole 2023, there was nothing passed. And now already 2024, 3 months in, nothing is passed to actually help Ukraine, which is absurd, which is like insane. it both whatever. We will talk about this just in a few moments. So yeah, this was about Budanov and few sort of changes in the military. It's a bit of a shake-up in the military and in general in the presidential apparatus and whatnot. But again, like, yeah, it seems like Zelensky is removing maybe not all the wrong people, but yeah, it's like his advisors, his assistants. But again, there is one sort of name that isn't on this list, which, yeah, makes me a little suspicious. Not suspicious, but just in a sad way that, like, maybe Zelensky is blind to this, unfortunately. I guess I'll just put this little sort of video.
Бажання, щоб не прийшли все-таки тут.
This video of Ukrainian defenders from the front line. I'll just put it sort of in, I guess, in the comment section or in the show notes. Just people talking about the desires so that, like, the invaders won't come to their family. The guy saying, "My family is safe. Everyone is happy. Everybody enjoys life at home." You know, he's talking about his family, and yeah. It's a sad video because obviously, like, a lot of these people are younger people. A lot of them, like, wouldn't probably be at any fucking wars whatsoever, but they were forced into this. And it's just sad. It's just a sad reminder, but a needed reminder nonetheless. So yeah, I'll include it. International Criminal Court issues arrest warrants against 2 Russian commanders for targeting civilian infrastructure. Sergei Kobalyash, I guess, and Admiral Viktor Sokolov, commander of Russian Black Sea Fleet and commander of Russian Aerospace Forces Long-Range Aviation. Obviously, now that and that was the news from the beginning of March, and things get way worse at the end of the March and are getting worse right now because Ukraine is lacking air defense system. You know, it's like, it's one thing when those pieces of garbage in United States not Parliament, Senate. Senate? No. Who's denying? Is it Senate? No, I think Senate passed. The House of Representatives, whatever the fucking system there in US. Whatever the Speaker Johnson's is responsibility, those pieces of shit, and especially GOP fucking Republicans, garbage pieces of morons, MAGA bot cunts, MAGA bot pieces of shit, Kremlin paid, Trump fucking influenced, retarded garbage. Absolute fucking filth, scum of the earth. Those pieces of shit. It's one thing when you're delaying weapons, like, or not even giving long-range weapons to Ukraine to continue attacks on, like, Russian oil infrastructure and things like that. And it's completely different when you don't even give weaponry to defend themselves in terms of, like, anti-aircraft systems and whatnot. And now that, like, couple systems Ukraine have, like, whatever Patriot system, there are, like, I think whatever, like 300 or maybe even like 1,000 something Patriot systems in United States doing fucking sweet fuck all. And yeah, not only that USA doesn't transfer them, they don't even give ammunition to those that are already there in Ukraine. And this, like, I can't. This is just this is just not right. This is just not right. Yeah. I like at these times, like I really hope that there is some kind of a fucking hell for all those MAGA pieces of shit, for all those who denied help to a country who's like literally being attacked by the most fucking purest essence of evil since literally fucking Hitler, and yet the world is still sort of lacking strength, lacking I don't fucking know, lacking fucking brains, courage. I don't fucking know. I don't know. It's just yeah. If it were up to me, frankly, I would just fucking take couple bombers and just fucking nuke the shit out of Kremlin to just like instantly eliminate Putin and all of his like top commanders. Just get rid of them, and then we can deal with the rest of the pieces of shit who are at the front lines. But yeah, I guess the world doesn't fucking understand still what they're dealing with. Russia started to arrest people who were at Alexei Navalny's funerals. They are using cameras that are everywhere, and then come to people's houses essentially, and which is very crucial. What I'm saying right now, that these people who were at Navalny's funerals, they're being identified via cameras. Again, remember this. This is very crucial to what we are about to talk in this episode. So, when it's about Alexei Navalny and his supporters, or just people who don't give a fuck that one of the most prominent politician and Putin's opposition was murdered in a fucking penal colony, where he ended up by a totally fabricated case. But those people are being watched. Cameras are working. They can identify faces of people, and these people are getting arrested, fined, and whatnot. We need to remember that once again. Also related to this, optimization of gulags, what will happen in Russia after elections. That was written just before the elections. When I'm saying Russian elections or elections in the context of Russia, mentally put giant air quotes, because obviously there was no election. It was a fake coronation of Putin, coronation, whatever you want to call it. What's interesting is that there are plans right now to build 3 new gulags, and if you've never heard the term gulag, literally put it into Google, and 3 new gulags are about to be constructed, or there are plans to construct them, each for 3,000 places, and they will be combining sort of several different sort of instances, right? Like one is for like pre-trial detention, for example, when you're still awaiting your sentence or awaiting court and whatnot, and then sort of prisons of sort of general type, or like maximum security prisons, and essentially they want to build them together, so you don't need to like transfer people far away from one place to another. And so like you can, so essentially they want to simplify the apparatus of violence and repression. So you literally, if you end up in the system, you're putting into this one sort of prison. You're being thrown into one barrack as a sort of pre-trial sort of a thing, right? And then and then essentially you're not getting out. You can get accustomed essentially to your surrounding because the courts in Russia basically sentence you in 99.9% of cases, and you will be sort of then escorted from one barracks to another, and then boom, you're already in a maximum security prison or whatever, like general prison. This is what they're planning, and I've heard this from more than one source, but there's that. There is the sort of future of Russia. And as we're talking about this, governmental Gosduma, Duma is this like a parliament essentially, right, in Russia. They are gonna be implementing new law, essentially removing any kind of criminal, how to put it, freeing basically mobilized persons or people who went to this war like via some contract with Ministry of Defense, Ministry of War. They will be, what's the correct word? Is it objectified? I don't want to like use the words that I'm not sure about. And I'm not going to be using words that I'm not sure about. These people will be free from criminal offenses. So essentially, it means that from these criminal offenses, people will be freed if they are if the offenses are sort of minor offenses or sort of middle kind of a grade. Basically, what it means is that if they had some if people had some sort of like a criminal records, because criminal records will be, what's it called, expunged, eliminated, right? I'm sorry that my English is a little bit rusty. I haven't done this particular type of content for quite some time, and there are some legal terms that are kind of a little bit hard right now. But essentially, murderers, rapists, people who steal, people who kill, they are basically free from criminal offenses, from their criminal records, if they essentially go to war or if they come back from war, which is just brilliant. This is the new Russia that's going to be waiting a lot of people, and that's going to be obviously the reality where a lot of people will be living under, essentially. And this is happening already, which is tied to this like one news here in Yakutia. A participant of war in Ukraine killed a teacher who was a winner of best teacher in Russia, essentially. And it happened 24 of February. He killed 64-year-old teacher. So he was sentenced to 11 years for murder of a woman in 2020. Then from the Pelham colony, he signed a contract and went to war, and in 2023 he returned back. And got drunk, killed one person, and then killed another person. And this is happening right now across all of Russia. All of Russia. It happens in many of these like smaller places, like maybe poorer places, but it happens also in bigger places. Like, I don't know if you've seen, there was a very famous video of uh, this fucking new Russian elite who came from the war, and essentially sort of meet with like his like acquaintance or whatever, or ex-business partner, shit like that, in a St. Petersburg cafe, and literally just took a gun, shot the guy dead, and then like continued, like shot him a couple times, and then essentially executed him, and then just continued to chill. Essentially, this is happening all over the place right now. So yeah, this is what Putin did to Russia. This is what he's done. This is his new elites, like I'm saying, and yeah, it's gonna get way, way, way worse, way worse. And I'm not certain whatsoever that it will ever get any better. So yeah, just wanted to sort of get this little info out there. All right. One extra sort of fucked up news is that in Russia right now, they're thinking about creating new law or expanding whatever the fucking shit they have right now to treat people with autism spectrum disorder by giving them haloperidol, which is quite a strong drug, as far as I understand, with quite a lot of sort of side effects that people don't really use anymore, or if they use it, it's like for, again, like mania, bipolar disorder, acute psychosis, hallucinations from alcohol withdrawal, schizophrenia. So like quite severe things, And in Russia, they literally want to give this shit to autistic people who don't really have nothing to do essentially with like, yeah, with schizophrenia or bipolar disorder or shit like that, which is yeah, it's insane. And it just shows you time and time again that Russia is a fascist state. It does not give a fuck about their own citizens. It doesn't give a fuck about any other people in this world, any other countries and whatnot. It is run by absolute fucking maniacs and sociopaths, people who fucking hate humanity, people who hate life, who hate living, who hate um, regular people with all the fucking hate that they have in their fucking absent souls. And yeah, this is pure fucking evil. These are pure fucking evil. And yet, once again, Russia, well, not Russia, the world just doesn't want to realize this, which is insane to me. I would like to talk about a few laws that are very similar between Russia and Belarus right now. There is right now, I think this is already passed as a law, or or maybe it was like, maybe it's not still passed, but it was already sort of under consideration. Basically, new law in Russia that if you're spreading fake news about military operation, about the war, which fake news means just discrediting Russian army because they're committing fucking crimes left and right, you might your property might get confiscated, your assets. So essentially, if Russian government sees that you reposted some kind of a news, not even that you published something, but you reposted something, you can be fined, you can be jailed, and then your property, your belongings, your flat may be confiscated, your phones, your cars, whatever it might be confiscated, and essentially stolen by the government. This is a reality in Russia right now. This is the reality, which is fucking insane. And why am I saying that this is something related to Belarus as well? Well, because Belarus apparently did the same. The law of about like expropriating of immovable property was already passed. So if in Russia that was considered, in Belarus it was already passed, and it's basically sort of similar thing that I just described, because obviously there is absolutely no sort of legal law. There are no courts. There is no like judiciary system whatsoever. If you have done some misstep, like in a regular society, this is just like expression of free speech and your opinion and whatnot. In Belarus, it is or in Russia, it is a misstep because you've been dumb enough to not protect yourself and your privacy, right? And so essentially, and by the way, this law was pushed in secrecy. So it wasn't even like a public law about like, oh, we will sort of debate this, blah, blah, blah. No. They already created it in secrecy and then published it, which is insane. And it says that if you've sort of if you've done some kind of unfriendly actions in regards to Belarusian citizens or organizations, your property might be confiscated. And apparently, what is these unfriendly actions is not specified in this law, which is exactly how these pieces of shit in Belarus and in Russia a lot of the times create their laws to essentially allow for anybody and everybody to be jailed. Because if you don't specify, you can come up with anything. And that could be a justification to literally steal your fucking property, your life's belongings, to put you in jail. That's what some people, even not even in Ukraine, and I understand, people in Ukraine are living with like 2 years already with a constant threat of literally a fucking bomb landing onto them. And so they have all the rights to hate Belarusians, Russians, and whatnot. But if you like sit and actually think what I'm just explaining to you, is that this level of fear might be even worse. No, okay, maybe it's not maybe worse, because dying after a fucking bombing is probably a little bit bigger threat than like not posting some shit. But the fact of the matter is that like you literally can be jailed for wearing like red, white socks. I'm not even kidding. Or because you have white, red, white flag, or even like white, red, white box on your fucking somewhere on your balcony. I'm not even kidding. That all happened. People got fined or got some kind of a jail time for these things. And now, again, you have this, you get tortured, you open your account and, give passwords to your accounts. Then, you wrote something, maybe in like a private, messaging. You can be jailed. Your property can get taken away from you. So that's the reality of living in Belarus. You literally cannot fucking say anything whatsoever. And then some people, again, some Ukrainian people will be saying like, "Oh, why don't you protest?" Like, So there's that. I just hope people understand just what this fucking shit is. And since we're talking about illegal expropriation of properties and whatnot, there is this supermarket in Russia called Peterочка and Перекресток. And apparently their assets will be essentially confiscated because Russian government essentially Minpромторг, which is like it's like an agency. Okay, well, Ministry of Industry and Trade. Yeah, well, that's how it's that's what it is. Branch who controls essentially trade in Russia. They sort of issued a complaint to court to essentially essentially transfer the rights of Netherlands company Retail Group NV, to essentially nationalize more than 21,000 stores in 67 regions of Russia. This is like, again, if some companies were thinking that they will be able to somehow, like, I don't know, somehow like sit this through or whatever, no, apparently they won't be able to sit this through. They need to sort of stand against like Russian oppression, stand against Russian government, against Putin, because he is the top of the mafia. He is the one who is doing all these fucking decisions. So, yeah. This is literally same nationalization that happened in Russia. Same like nationalization, I mean stealing from foreigners, from foreign companies, from foreign businesses. That was happening in Russia more than 100 years ago, during times of Lenin, Bolsheviks revolution, shit like that. When they killed or essentially exiled a shit ton of entrepreneurs, took their businesses, promised electorate, promised fucking peasants, right? That it was fucking entrepreneurs who were oppressing you. It was that capitalist class that was oppressing you, and now everything will be better. And then obviously there were periods of hunger. There were periods where fucking nothing anymore was sort of created in Russia and whatnot. And the only thing that was working essentially is the fucking military component of it, which is, again, nothing has changed in 100 years. If this shit will continue, if Russia in its current form will continue to exist, nothing will change in this fucking swamp of a land. in the next probably fucking far, I don't know how many, 500 years, 4, 3, fucking don't know. In a million year, probably nothing will change. If people of the world, if the world leaders will allow the shit to continue, it will be the same shit over and over again. Russia loses some war, collapses, or wins some war, eventually collapses, because Cold War they lost essentially because USSR collapsed, because they didn't do anything besides war industry. They couldn't even fucking create good cars. They couldn't even create fucking dishwashers, washing machines. They couldn't do anything for their people, because at the top of Russia, for more than 100 years right now, there were these pieces of shit who never created anything themselves. All these fucking Marxists, Chekists, Leninists, all the Bolsheviks, all these pieces of garbage. Those fucking filth, absolute fucking scumbags. And they were ruling for the past, again, more than 100 years now. So nothing will ever change here. If the world literally doesn't defeat Russia completely, break it apart in, again, 10, 15, whatever regions, and then for I don't know, 20 years install literally foreign government to actually rule Russia, or Russian subject, post Russia comes, with actually good sort of economic policies, maybe adding some money to whatever, instill sort of democratic values, change school reform, change education and whatnot, so people understood what our actual values should be for people living in 21st century. Otherwise, literally in 100 years, it will be still the same shit. Russia will wage wars against neighbors and will not be able to create even a fucking toilet paper without actually using some kind of a component or some kind of a machinery from the West, from foreigners. Mark my fucking words. Why I'm saying about this again, just recently, a couple days ago, Makfa, one of the biggest producers of pasta, of spaghetti in Russia, court, again, when I'm using court or elections in context of Russia, put giant fucking air quotes or just insert automatically the word fake, or court controlled by Putin and Putin's mafia, something like that. You can automatically insert. And so, yeah, Makfa, Russian mafia is still in Makfa right now. Again, why they're doing this? Because their budget is right now, literally, first quarter of 2024, their budget, people in the West still think that Russia is doing really well, the prices are not really going up, they still have this and that on the shelves and whatnot. They right now have a budget deficit of, I think, 90, or it was even in at the end of February, I think the budget deficit was 92%. Basically 2 months, maybe 3 months into the year, the budget deficit is already, basically there is already no budget. That's just 3 months. All the rest of the year means that there will be a huge deficit, because a lot of companies actually exited exited Russia, because their offensive budget, the budget for the war, got that much bigger. Russia is literally becoming right now a war economy. And so they're just trying to steal things that they can to, essentially get at least some money for themselves. This is the reality. Again, people still don't get it, and I don't understand why. So Makfa is basically nationalized right now already. And all the apparently affiliated companies affiliated with mafia as well. So yeah, just like that. 26 companies, yearly revenue 41 billion rubles, which would it be like what? $500 million, something like that. Prior to that, in the same court, I think I talked about it like in the previous episode or maybe a couple episodes ago about Chelyabinsk electrometallurgy sort of factory plant that it was nationalized as well. And by the way, what's interesting is that the sort of the reason why MACFA officially, sort of the official reason, is the is the corruption nature of the business, because the beneficiaries of the companies, because the beneficiaries of the companies were doing business while being essentially involved in the governmental activities. Ex-governor of Chelyabinsk region and ex-deputy of Gosduma, which is, if you know anything about Russia, this is like if in any other country, in like a regular good democratic country, if you've been doing business, for example, and especially if you've been involved in sort of if you've been in the government while doing business, and especially if your governmental position might have affected your business in like your in sort of in a positive sort of way for you, that would have been obviously corruption. That would have been bad, because maybe like you passed some law that sort of makes it harder for some potential my English today is so rusty. Some potential competitors to enter like your particular sort of area, your particular field. Maybe like you've done that, right? Or maybe you've like nationalized, not nationalized, maybe you're like privatized what was previously a national sort of thing. I don't know, maybe like a couple of old factories or whatever, or maybe you've given yourself some preferential treatment and give yourself like some land or whatever where you could build some kind of a factory, or like a very long lease for the very low amount of money, whatever it might be, right? That all could have been very good if people like that got some punishment in a decent regular country. But we're talking about Russia right now. Everyone in Russia, basically every big business is somehow involved with the government, because government needs to approve essentially and give them ability to do business, especially like I'm saying, if it's something big. So this, what they're writing here, is basically the same thing about the Chelyabinsk electrometallurgy plant or factory. I'm thinking that these people just weren't in the Putin's mafia circle. They were kind of their own sort of people, maybe in their own region they had some connections with, couple like higher ups. Maybe they had some protection from FSB in their own region or something like that. But they weren't Putin's mafia. And you just people, if you're thinking that I'm just like completely speaking out of my ass or whatever, you just don't understand. Like Putin and his mafia is literally like a fucking octopus from like James Bond movies or whatever, right? Or Spectre, right? From Spectre from James Bond movies as well, right? Octopus, was it? Or whatever, Spectre, for example, right? It is like literally this fucking thing that has its little fucking fingers in everything in Russia. In everything. And not even in Russia, but across the globe. This is just how it is. Russia is captured right now and has been for a long, long time by Putin's mafia. And when I'm saying Putin's mafia, it is like that. They are killing people left and right. They are expropriating what they think belongs to them. Especially if somebody dared to create something without asking them, and this something is, decent, good, like this spaghetti, whatever, makfa. It's a decent company, right? I'm pretty sure even in Belarus, I've eaten this kind of a thing and whatnot. But now again, because Putin is absolutely fucking sociopathic maniac. He wants to destroy Ukraine. He wants to subjugate Ukraine because they dare to stand against him and against what he represents. Guys, you just need to listen to people who are telling you this. And now he will take any money from everywhere he can, just so he can continue to literally bomb Ukraine and try to subjugate those people. Because this is what maniacs, this is what sociopaths do. They want to control people. And he is a fucking sociopath, a maniac, a fucking serial killer in a quite literal sense of it. Just because he's not doing it with his own hands doesn't mean that he's not doing that. He is. You guys, you just need to fucking understand what I'm talking about. And it's not only me who's talking about. Lots of people are talking about that, who understand at least a little bit about actually living in these fucking shitty places. You just need to hear it. You just need to listen. And everything will be a little bit better. If at least some understanding will start to occur, in people. Because, like I told you before, right, this is what's Putin's sort of new elites, right? The fucking killers, criminals, pieces of shit who actually go to war against Ukraine, against peaceful Ukraine, who didn't fucking do anything to them, for money, and regular people, nobody gives a fuck. And this is, for example, one of those news that thief in law. This is this kind of a term that exists, I guess, only fucking in Russia. I don't know. A criminal who was jailed, who essentially criminal, like this is like your sort of like a, I guess the best way to do the reference, to give you a reference point, is like a Godfather, right? The fucking mafiosi who's doing the business, who's shaking hands with like even politicians and actual police and whatnot, but he's a fucking criminal. And the one of such people, apparently right now 71 years old, apparently got out of prison. I don't know. Apparently he asked to be sort of released prematurely because of the health, I guess. I don't know. I don't give a fuck. In 2018, he was sentenced to essentially almost like 10 years. But if you have been following the news, right now it's not 2028. It's 2024. And he's out of prison already. So this is the fucking Putin's new elites. Criminals, killers, rapists, thieves in law, your literal mafiosis. And it's just the world needs to wake up to what they're dealing with before it's too late. One more secret law was passed in Belarus, apparently, or it was classified about changing the government or what is it? Shifting, yeah, about shifting of governmental institutions and other organizations to essentially like a wartime schedule, something like that. Yeah, I haven't read it. Again, it's classified. How can you like even have any laws that some people are supposed to follow if it's classified and you can't fucking read it? I do not really get that. It was something like basically they can yeah, it's like about the wartime sort of scenario that during the wartime the parliament cannot be sort of let go. What is it? I got my English loose now. Yeah, you cannot sort of let go the parliament. There will be no elections or referendums, as if they fucking exist here. Yeah, in this period, in the period of wartime, government can essentially sort of involve kind of forcefully not only like actual army but civilians as well. Also can change how the border is operating, essentially like close the border from the inside. Also can be what is this, curfew, yeah, that's the word. Also curfew can be implemented. Basically, yeah, I mean it's all understandable, but once again, it's understandable for a decent country. But when we're talking about dictatorship state and the fact that, yeah, they can essentially do whatever the fuck they want, implementing so much of restrictions, well, that's scary. That's really scary. That is something that I got to experience, unfortunately, during the COVID time, when Belarus actually closed its borders from the inside, and that was one of the scariest things that happened ever to me, because I knew that like even if I had money, which I didn't, but even if I had money and like the income from the like outside of Belarus, essentially, I still wouldn't be able to escape this fucking gulag, which is exactly how I feel about this country. It's a fucking giant gulag. So yeah, it's really scary. It's really fucking scary that they are sort of fucking cooking something there, that they are classifying this, and that there might be something that might affect my own life directly. Again, I'm describing to you like how I see this whole thing and what it feels like to live in the piece of shit of dictatorship state called Belarus. So yeah. And since I talked about Russia stealing essentially from entrepreneurs or whatever, I mean, again, in that case, yeah, maybe there were scumbags, whatnot, I don't know. Here is UK citizen, essentially UK citizen had a bit of a fucking dealing with Belarus, because he's electric his solar power plant, apparently got stolen from him. I didn't know that. I didn't know when it happened, to be honest. I didn't know when it happened, to be honest. Kibbut Tutinian Mashad. That's an interesting UK citizen. Doesn't sound too UK, but okay. So apparently, I just don't know how it got to this, but apparently, oh, okay, they described it. So it was like already a year ago. So it was like a year ago already. So okay, so apparently, okay, that's interesting. I haven't read like the whole sort of history of this, um, but that's a long time. Apparently, the investment sort of contract was already in place in 2014. The whole the construction works happened on like whole 4 years after, which is just insane. And then yeah, like he or his companies, essentially his investment, whatever, somebody that invested into that as well, they have built this. They were planning to make this and that amount of money, and then apparently after a couple of months, in May 2022, this electrical station, but it's solar power plant, right, was cut off from the national energy system without any notice, um, because of alleged sort of quality issues with because of the issues with the quality of electrical energy, which is absurd to even say this. What do you mean quality of electrical fucking energy? It is electrons. Electrons are electrons. There can't be like quality issues with them. They are what they are. They are either there or they are not there, which is in fucking insane. So apparently the guy then wanted to essentially sort of take his money and say like, okay, whatever, but of course he wouldn't have foreseen that when you're doing business with a fucking dictatorship governments, this is the outcomes. You might like the guy apparently went for like high risk, high reward scenario. He just didn't understand what he's dealing with. And if you remember, in some episode, I was talking about similar issue with other investors. That time it was, I think, some kind of like a either like steel rolling factory, or maybe it was like a chemical factory that investors have built and then Lukashenko stole it essentially. So yeah, apparently this is exactly that. And I will include these links because this is really interesting. I haven't read. I mean, and again, like you can easily translate it through Google Translate. Apparently, he started to. Oh yeah, so apparently yeah, and then in May, sort of they. In May they already kind of cut his project essentially, or created really big sort of problems for him. Then from the renewable source, then Belarus created a law essentially. Essentially in June created a law about regulating sort of renewable energy. About regulating renewable energy, and they excluded essentially their decision to buy all of the renewable energy from, projects that might be invested in renewable energy, which is probably this June 2022, right? It's probably coincided with launch at full scale of a nuclear power plant in Belarus. This is most likely what it is, because probably around this time, the second reactor was already sort of finishing testing and getting into full scale operation, and probably they just said, you know what? Previously, we were trying to diversify a little bit, the solar things, whatever. Now that we have this nuclear power plant, and it's fully operating, and it's producing quite a lot of energy, and we're in a surplus, and we are earning money, why the fuck will we honor our agreement with some fucking UK cunt? Fuck him. But apparently he didn't give up, and he sort of he what is this lawsuit? Of course, he made a lawsuit into international court, ICSID. I don't know what it is. This is first time I hear this. International court, CID. What is CID? No idea. Let's take a look. International Center for Settlement of Investment Disputes. That's interesting. Okay, never heard of it. And now he's demanding the government of Belarus compensate whatever he's invested into this power plant, which is absolutely sort of Oh well, I could have just read a little bit here. Yeah, he just wants to be compensated for stolen power plant, essentially. Yeah, that's, I mean, that's, I don't know. I mean, it probably can happen, just in terms of if the decision will be sort of in his favor, then obviously you can't necessarily sort of say to Belarus yay, pay us, because they will not. But what can happen is that some assets in either UK or whatever the jurisdiction of this settlement court, whatever thing is, if it's under their jurisdiction, they could probably sort of confiscate some of the Belarusian property, sell it, and then give them the money back, or maybe kind of. That's the problem with these kind of things. It's like okay, you win this, and then what? How do you actually get the money from these pieces of shit? It's just listen, I am living in this fucking shit country, right? In this absolute fucking garbage of state, and even I just say because it would be sort of detrimental to me, but even I say people in the West do not deal with fucking dictatorship government. Don't invest in this fucking shitty country. I know I will be worse off because of that, but why are you doing this? Why are you fucking doing business with bloody fucking dictatorship regimes? What is wrong with you? It's what is this fuck around, found out, right? That's the definition. You fuck around, you find out. Obviously it's not fair, and I you know what I mean? I wouldn't want this to be like that, but this is the reality. You are banking, you're putting everything on zero, and you think that thieves, murderers, usurpers of power will honor some word of their some of their word. What are you doing? Are you fucking child or something? Are you 10? Are you 5 years old? Yeah. That is the situation. And you know what? I think I'm gonna like cut this episode in two because I still have quite a lot of things, and I'm already like hour 15 into this. I think we're gonna do like two of the episodes. I think I'm gonna do like probably like maybe like next week another one, because obviously there were like a lot of news in terms of like Russian, absolutely fucking the fakest of fakes elections, and obviously there are news about Russians, FSB probably doing, in my opinion, okay, creating a terrorist act. Terrorist is actually I'm not even sure like why English doesn't really have this word, it doesn't use this terrorist act, because it's such a like concise terrorist thing, and it's like it's the words are there already in English in Krakow City Hall, because I want to talk a little bit more about this, because to my like I just don't understand like how people don't see what I see. There are also a lot of like stuff, a lot of news about sort of spies essentially in the West, in Europe, about Kremlin slush funds in Vienna, for example. There's so many news, and also, of course, about the fact that the entire Russian missile manufacturing sort of cycle, how they do it, how many like industrial equipment is foreign. And that's because like Russia doesn't produce any of this, and there's like a giant beautiful report about this. There is a beautiful report about a piece of garbage that I literally started this whole channel basically because I was so like pissed at a fucking moron, Lex Friedman, at his interview with Oliver Stone, when Oliver Stone was spewing garbage Russian propaganda right at the beginning of the war. And now, what do you know? He got fucking paid for that. This old piece of garbage, who at some point was a decent filmmaker, whose movies are pretty good and were pretty good and pretty sort of political, sort of about US and like Vietnam War and whatnot. At some point he was a decent fucking, I don't know, was he ever a decent person? Was he always a garbage piece of shit? I don't know. But now he is definitely Oliver Stone. I fucking saw it. I called it 2 years ago. And it's just so insane that people don't see it still, that he's the fucking paid shield, he's a garbage moron. Then there are also news about a long sort of list of people who suddenly died relating to Lukoil and Gazprom, for example. Most of them like 50, like 60 years old, sort of top managers and whatnot. Very, very like there are so many still really kind of important news that I want to talk about, that I think I will just like literally take all of that and do like the next episode quite soon, because otherwise this episode will be like 2.5 hours or something like that. And obviously the lack of Ukrainian lack of United States support to Ukraine is also very big topic that I want to like dedicate like a big portion, because right now Ukraine is being attacked every fucking day, like and at unprecedented scales, because they don't have enough of air defense systems. And just whatever you say is doing to their own credibility as an ally to the Western democracies, to the actual decent countries, is beyond belief. How they're like literally killing every fucking goodwill, good faith in the past. Like they've done this already, just in 1 year, in 6 months. They just killed any sort of credibility of United States as a decent, reliable nation. And this is under Biden administration. I mean, he still have some money, he still have ability to kind of he even has ability to enact some laws just on his own. Yes, like the next president or whatever can just cut all of the shit immediately, but there is an ability for a president to to do certain things just on his own, and he's not doing this, which is insane. Which is just insane. And the Senate, is it the Senate that fucking Speaker Johnson? Is it a Senate? I'm still confused about the structure of United States sort of system. How it's I think the Senate. No, okay, so Speaker Johnson is Speaker of the House of Representatives. Okay, yeah. So yeah. I just want to talk about that in more in depth in the next episode. So let's do that, and let's end Critical Discussions episode 30 right here, right now. And if you wanna see what we're about to cook for the next episode, like I just said, then the little announcement, and please subscribe to Critical Discussions YouTube channel, subscribe to Twitch, and if you can, some donations is highly appreciated. There are links at criticaldiscussions.net, and I'll see you in the next one, guys. Take care of yourselves.